Hey guys, it's John. Welcome to our fourth online apologetics video. Today we're going to be discussing creationism and evolution. I want us to begin our discussion today by discussing creationism. What is creationism? Creationism is the belief that the universe and all species of living organisms were created individually and purposefully by God or another intellectual being, not through natural processes. And this is what many theistic religions believe, going back to our last video that we talked about what theistic religions are. Next, I want us to continue our discussion by discussing the Big Bang Theory, and not the TV show, but the event. According to space.com, they define it as the leading explanation about how the universe began. At its simplest, it says the universe as we know it started with a small singularity that inflated over the next 13.8 billion years to the cosmos that we know today. And the main discussion here that we're going to focus in on here between the Big Bang and then creationism here is what is God's role in the discussion here of the Big Bang Theory? Was it just a sudden circumstance to where all of these chemicals had the right kind of bang to it, so to speak? Or was it that God, intellectual being, purposely put all these chemicals to have this reaction, and as a result, creating all of the planets and creating us as well? And the leading argument nowadays that's being used as a discussion for proving God's role is the cosmological argument. And the cosmological argument, it states three different statements here that I want us to focus in on. Number one, everything that had a beginning had a cause. Number two, the universe had a beginning, and therefore the universe had a cause. And because everything had a beginning, had a cause, and the universe had a beginning, as a result, we can take those first two statements and deduct and come to the conclusion that the universe had a cause. And I can go on for pretty much days in making this video well over hours long, just about different pieces of evidence, going from Einstein's theory of relativity to the second law of thermodynamics. However, I would really encourage you to take a look at the note-taker's guide. I encourage you to take a look at the note-taker's guide about further pieces of evidence for this discussion. Next, we're going to discuss evolution. According to Oxford Dictionary, evolution is defined as the process by which different kinds of living organisms are thought to have developed and diversified from earlier forms during the history of the Earth. When most people think about evolution, they associate it with Darwinism, named after Charles Darwin. And Darwinism is the theory of the evolution of species by natural selection. The theory is the most commonly taught theory regarding evolution in the public school system. And before we go into this discussion any further, we're going to discuss the difference between the two types of evolution, and that's macro and micro evolution. First, let's take a look here at macroevolution. Macroevolution can be defined as a major evolutionary change. For instance, a monkey evolving to a human. When referring to macroevolution, you can also think about or associate it with Darwinism. And next, I want us to discuss here microevolution. And microevolution is defined as an evolutionary change within a species or small group of organisms. And for example, here this can include bacteria, strains, or disease becoming resistant to antibiotics, along with different breeds or inbreeding of different types of cats, dogs, birds, different types of species. And from a Christian worldview standpoint, it's believed that microevolution occurs while macroevolution is a less likely explanation for the creation of the world. In other words, microevolution is a great explanation as far as when it comes to explaining how bacteria or certain diseases become resistant to certain medicines. It's a great explanation for that. However, when it comes to explaining macroevolution, based off of what we see in the book of Genesis, it doesn't quite make very much sense for that to be the explanation as far as how God has stated to create Adam and Eve. And here are 3 common misconceptions I want us to discuss here about evolution. Number 1, evolution isn't necessarily an anti-Christian concept. And really, in a lot of churches nowadays, evolution is a really taboo subject. A lot of churches don't want to talk about evolution because they believe that gets into a lot of controversial topics. And when they mean controversial, a lot of it's related mainly to Darwinism and macroevolution. However, from what I just discussed previously, microevolution is a great explanation for us, especially when it comes to providing evidence for why diseases become resistant to certain antibiotics. Number 2, there's a scientific evidence both consistent and inconsistent with evolutionary theory. So there's evidence out there that provides great claims when it comes to proving both micro and macro evolution. But however, it's very inconsistent. We have to be aware of that as great apologists. When we go through and we take a look at evidence, we have to filter through what's the validity of this evidence being presented to us. And number 3, the age of the earth and evolution are related but separate scientific subjects that we must grapple with. So the discussion about the age of the earth and evolution are related, but we talk about in different type of contexts and different type of discussions. However, we need to be able to come to conclusions about what are we going to choose to be, what are we going to choose to believe. Thank you guys for watching today. Please take a look below at the Note Taker's Guide in the description. It has some great resources and some great links as far as our discussion today on evolution and on creationism. So please do that. And I'll see you guys in the next video.